And now we're going to take it over to the AI. I'm going to drop it in, and let's see what happens. Okay, so here we are in the AI, and I am just going to literally drop that in here. Let's see what happens. Okay, so here we go. It took about 2 minutes, and here we go. It says first macro, create category summary, create audit report. Okay, and it's kind of summarizing the request. Oh, so this is interesting. Like it's already flagging like, hey, if developer's not there, here's how you do it. Like that's super useful. Okay, so let's look at the code. Here we go. Wait a minute. This is all, okay, that's one. Okay, yeah, I was going to say that's quite long, but it's actually 2 in 1 here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the first one. Okay. And we're going to take this over to our new file here. Open up Visual Basic. Okay, so for this one, this is the book 1, the new one. What I'm going to do is you right click, insert module. They're called modules. And we're just going to paste that in here. Okay. Boom, create category summary. Just continue on here. So, okay, second one. Go back into Visual Basic here. We're going to right click, insert module, and then boom, that's our other one. Okay, so what I would actually do, there's 2 approaches. Okay, like what I had recommended earlier, not to one-shot programs. That's essentially what I'm doing here. Is I'm just copy paste the full thing in, hope it works. I'm only doing that for the purposes of this because we already know the result. So it's pretty safe to do that in this case as an example. But what I would actually do if I was doing this is I would spend time here and I would make sure that this all makes sense to me. So I would say, I would look at all these and say, okay, does that make sense? I would look through the way that it's trying to work through it. Okay, and if you're newer to this, you might look at that and say, that's pretty daunting, that's going to take a lot of time. But that's how you learn. And this is going to prevent you from spending more time on this later if something doesn't work. So if you're newer on this and you don't understand code, then just say, hey, can you explain this to me like line by line or section by section so I can understand what you're doing here, the way you're tackling my problem. And it will go through and it'll explain that to you. And that's important because it might be assuming things that aren't right or that aren't exactly true. Like maybe it assumes you want to use the Supplier Audit tool to do something else and you didn't specify that. So if you can see how it's thinking, and you can do that by either reading the code or asking it to explain. But I would do that first, and I would go through and I would look at and see, like, number one, is this absolutely necessary? You know, is this the simplest way to do it? And do I think it's actually going to do what I want it to do? Okay, so I would be evaluating this first before running it. And if there was any questions or anything, I would prompt it again before putting it in my code. Like I would, if there was something that didn't make sense or didn't look right, I would say, is this right? Do we need this? Why do we need it? Or like, hey, I like to do things this way. Can we do it that way? You know, that's another thing I do. Like if it's trying to do some advanced like concepts and I'm like, whoa, I didn't want to do that. Like I want to do a simple for loop, check the rows. And it will do that. It'll be like, oh, cool. And it'll just change the code to how you like to see it. And sometimes that's better because if you're more familiar with it, then it's going to be more successful more quickly. You'll get it running faster with less problems and you'll understand it. And then if you want to get fancy from that point, fine. Like, okay, now streamline it. Like do it your advanced way and see if it's better. But at least you have a working foundation to work from. Okay, that's very important. So in this run though, we're just gonna vibe code it. We're gonna do one shot. Okay. I need to copy over my data. Go back here. We're gonna pull this, and we're gonna copy that over. Okay. So how do you run the macros from the front? If you're not familiar with this, here's how we do that. Okay. So in order to run the macros, what we need to do is we need to insert buttons. But essentially what it is it's a shape, a clickable shape that Excel knows when somebody clicks on it, run this code. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on insert here and we're going to say, see, this is form controls. That's a fancy way to say, you know, button. But here's what we want. We want a button, and there's other things you can do in here too that are more advanced, checkboxes. All we need is a button because we're just executing. So click on button and notice my cursor changed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an actual space here, and that's going to turn into a button. Okay, so what is the macro name? Again, it's pulling in the other macros. Weird Excel thing. Supplier management tool, that's the other file. Okay, we don't want those on this one. We want these, which notice they don't have the name. If they don't have the name of it, that means it's this active book. It's this active Excel file. So create category summary. That's the first one we want. Okay. Now look, we've got a button. Now here's something that's important. I forgot to rename it. It says button 1. I don't like that. If you click on it, it will just run the code. Okay, doesn't matter. There's no way to change it right now. What you need to do is you need to, well, you can right click, edit text. Okay, that's important because if you think you can do it by highlighting it or double clicking it, that's not how it works. You have to actually specifically say rename. Okay, so this is going to be, we'll just say category report. Enter. No, you have to just click off of it. We're going to do it again. Okay, insert button, draw it. Oh, the other thing too is that, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, create audit report. These are the macros. And notice that they're the same names as these actual subroutines that we put in here. Create audit report, create audit report. Okay, that's how that works. Let's go back here. Okay, create audit report, that's what we want. Boom. So you can tell if it's outlined and it turns into the little text thing here, that's how you know it's editing. If it's just a pointer, then it's not editing. Okay. Speaking from experience here on that. And that matters, like if you wrote a code that evaluates 10,000 lines of code, again, speaking from experience, like you got to be careful because if you're just trying to rename it and you don't do this, but you click on it instead, all of a sudden now you're going to be grinding for minutes to evaluate all your lines of data. And you're going to be like, no, stop. That's not what I wanted. Just to rename a button, right? So, okay. Audit report. Fine. Okay, so we got that. Everything looks good. The other thing too about placement. Okay, so so again, if you also want to resize or replace, you have to do it this way. You can't do it any other way. And if you click off it, it'll take you out of that. So let's see if this works. Category report. Okay, boom, and look at that. It even included a box this time to say created. Cool, thank you for that. But look, that's perfect. So actually it worked out perfectly. But again, it only worked out perfectly because I had gone through that trial and error. Okay, that's something. This is where some people online will one-shot apps and say, "Look how awesome this is." Okay, but they don't show all the work it took to actually get there. It's actually extremely hard to one-shot this. Okay, and it's meaningless anyway because even if you did, there's always more you can do. That's not what it's about. Don't get into that. It's not about the ability to create the perfect app on the first go. No, get into the routine of start simple, prove it out, build it gradually over time. Okay, that's the best way to do it because then you can create really, really powerful software that you know works and does exactly what you want it to do. Okay, that's the way to do it. But anyway, we're looking great on this. Let's just do a quick check here. The only thing's missing is this. I don't know why I put that second button, maybe for ease, as a second location, after you do this, do that here. Doesn't really matter. But then let's go back over to book 1. Should be very similar. Maybe just the spacing is a little bit. I have category summary up here versus it has just category and supplier count. So it just goes straight into, it doesn't have that first line. That's why it looks different. But anyway, copper, yeah. Everything else looks exactly right. Okay, cool. Now let's try the other one. Audit report, boom. Now it's April right now, so I got to make sure some of these are in the right and I'm doing it on sheet 3, which is not the right sheet. Okay, so we're gonna delete that sheet entirely, go back to the one that matters. For this one, we're gonna make it 2026. For this one, we're gonna make it 2026. These will keep 2025 because it's July, which hasn't happened yet. So those should show past. These should show current. So let's see what that does. Okay, so that did seem, yeah, that looks like it fixed the problem. Now, since I know it's 18 days, what I want to do, I want to trigger one to go yellow just to make sure. Which means this one needs to be like, whoops, needs to be March, like 25th, I think. Let's try that. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. This is great. Okay, so it is actually working as intended. So just by updating the actual date, everything is working as expected. So this works, this one works, and yeah, we've totally recreated what we've just done, or what was supplied with the book. So again, at this point, I hope you're starting to get a little bit familiar with the process. I want you to, the takeaway from this is I want you to understand the process of how I'm doing these things, why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it, because like I said, there's going to be, you're going to take this and say, that's great, but I want to do this. And that's totally fine. What I'm hoping is you understand the process so that you can get started trying to do that other thing that you want to do. If you're familiar with code, like you've got a leg up because it should be much quicker for you. If you don't, then what I would recommend is spend some time going through the macros, the code, and trying to understand a little bit of it and having AI help you do that. So that you can learn more about why it's doing things, and then that will help you with the next thing that you want to do. Because maybe, like I said, you want to get into quality defects. Maybe there's other things that you want to do. Okay. Now in another video, what I'm going to do, I'm going to focus more on like sorting and filtering and cleaning up data. That one's going to be more of a sales oriented video. So I'm going to look at some made up sales data. And it's going to have like customer, part, price, quantity, all the stuff. And what we're going to do with that one is look at, how can we organize the data around our sales information to kind of like recreate a CRM report. So that's the kind of thing that I want you to learn, because maybe you're in sales, maybe you're in accounting. Like I've done this same thing with accounting data. Okay, we might be looking at past due suppliers, things like that, where you're pulling data out of your system in Excel. But instead of looking at suppliers, now you're looking at past due payments. Sorry, customers, not suppliers if I said suppliers. Past due customers. So maybe customers haven't paid you when they're supposed to pay you. Okay, this is another thing I've done. Very similar process. And like literally all it took was doing this in Excel. We shared it with the sales team. And then within a month, we had like 80% of the list cleaned up, or 80% of the payments cleaned up. Because all it took was sorting the data, and then for most of it, it was just that the customers didn't realize that they were past due. So all the sales team had to do was then just pick up the phone, call them, and just say, hey, you guys are violating your terms. You should be on 60 days. You're past your 60-day window. For the most part, the accounts payable people said, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. We'll get a wire transfer going today or by the end of the week or something like that. Like that's all it took. So you could get very powerful results from these basic things. So like I said earlier, at the very least, it's a nice check on your systems. But at best, you can turn it into something quite advanced. And I go into this a lot more in my book, Business Operations Unlocked. So if you haven't bought it yet, I highly recommend it, because where we take it with this is integrating physical processes and sensors. So maybe you want to help out your logistics systems. Like you've got a warehouse or whatever, and you're picking product and shipping it, okay? You can implement a pretty simple, inexpensive barcode scanner system, okay, where you've got a device that just reads a barcode. You can even print barcodes, like print your own barcode, put it on that where that product is, get a simple scanner, scan it, have it transmit that to an Excel file, okay? And then you can do similar things. Like when this data comes in, put a date on it, put a time on it. Okay, maybe the scanner even knows like who did it. So put in who did it. Okay, and then imagine that populating in Excel. So now you've got a pick and ship system that you can use to verify your own, or maybe even just use this one. And then you can start to do things like analyze when was it, how long did it take for it to get picked? How long did it take for it to get picked to the shipping area? And then how long did it take for it to get actually out the door? Okay, so this is how you can start to combine all of these things. It doesn't have to be some big enterprise solution. Okay, there are ways to do it like this, and what I talk about in my book that are pretty inexpensive, and with the help of AI, now that threshold's much lower. Like pretty much anybody can learn it that wants to learn it. So that's really what I'm trying to convey here is my experience, which is doing this exact thing like I've talked about. This is what I've done in my career. This is how I've gotten ahead. I've kind of fused my engineering background with products, devices, technology, coding, with what I've learned now later in my career as an executive doing sales, marketing, business strategy, okay, accounting, like you name it. I've touched a lot of things, and I've started to put these pieces together, and it's been incredibly effective for me, simple, inexpensive. Like I've had a lot of people say, what are you trying to do? Do you know how expensive that is? And you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, no, it's not expensive. It's not hard. It doesn't have to be. Okay. So that's what I'm hoping you get out of this is, you know, take it on yourself. That's why I'm here. If you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, follow. It really helps me out. And again, check out Business Operations Unlocked if you haven't already, because it's a full 7-step process for how to apply these concepts across, you know, your entire business or your entire specific area. Like if you manage just a specific division or a team, or even just your own work. Like if you want to just look at, you know, if you're in logistics, I want to work on this. It's great for that too, okay, no matter what you do. So if you've stuck with me this far, you know, thanks. And if you've got any questions or comments or want other things covered, feel free to leave them in the comments. Or actually what a better thing to do would be go to jasonunlock.com, go to the contact form and put it in the contact form, because that gets emailed directly to our team. So instead of, you know, looking up comments on YouTube or wherever, that's the better way to do it, because we see all that feedback and we love hearing from you guys, and we want to work to help you. Okay, I'm successful if you're successful. That's my big thing. So I'm here to help you, and I can sit down and talk at a screen for an hour, but that's not great. Like I want to see you have success. So please do that. Reach out to me. I'm here to help, and I can't wait to see what you do with this, and I'll see you in the next video.